Welcome back to the Broken Truth Podcast, where we question what's real, expose what's hidden, and uncover the stories they don't want you to hear. I'm your host, Garrett, and today, we're diving into another chapter of deception, control, and truth that's been buried for far too long.
Nothing stays buried forever.
Medicine has delivered life-saving breakthroughs from antibiotics to open-heart surgery, but an inconvenient truth lingers. Many commonly prescribed drugs treat symptoms rather than the underlying causes of illness. Pharmaceutical ads promise quick fixes, but at what cost? Today we investigate how this, quote, pill for every ill, end quote, mentality plays out in three popular classes of drugs: Ozempic, Adderall, and SSRIs. And then broaden the lens to examine two pillars of Western cardiology: beta blockers and statins. We'll hear from integrative physicians who argue that these drugs mask deeper problems, from patients who feel stuck on lifelong prescriptions, and from evidence-based clinicians who defend the benefits of symptom-focused therapies. Ozempic, the diabetes drug credited with Hollywood weight loss transformations, has captured the public imagination. Approved in 2017 for type 2 diabetes, Ozempic, or semaglutide, is a weekly injection that helps the pancreas release more insulin. It mimics a gut hormone, telling your brain you're full and slowing digestion. When used for diabetes, weight loss is a common side effect, and research shows semaglutide does promote weight loss. But as the drug went viral on social media, an off-label market emerged. People without diabetes were asking for prescriptions just to shed pounds.
The UC Davis Health blog notes that Ozempic is not approved for weight loss. The weight loss drug Wegovy contains a higher dose of semaglutide and is specifically approved for chronic weight management. Even with the drug, lifestyle changes, diet and exercise remain essential. Stopping the medication often leads to weight regain. Experts caution that while Ozempic can lower weight and therefore reduce risk of heart problems, its proper use is for people with type 2 diabetes.
Functional medicine practitioners paint a different picture. They point out that semaglutide slows gastric emptying so dramatically that patients may experience nausea, vomiting, acid reflux, constipation, or diarrhea. Because food lingers in the stomach, it can fuel small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, leading to bloating and malabsorption. They warn that weight lost on Ozempic includes a disproportionately high amount of muscle mass, which can lower metabolism and worsen frailty in older adults. Most importantly, the drug does not correct the root causes of obesity: chronic inflammation, hormonal imbalances, nutritional deficiencies, or gut dysbiosis. When patients stop injecting, the pounds often return.
As we'll hear again, the critique is that Ozempic treats the symptom, excess weight, rather than why the weight was gained. Yet for some patients, the symptom itself, obesity, is life-threatening. That tension is at the heart of the broader debate. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, otherwise known as ADHD, affects millions of children and adults. For decades, stimulant medications like Adderall and amphetamine, dextroamphetamine mix have been the first line of pharmacologic treatment. Adderall boosts dopamine and norepinephrine levels in the brain, improving attention and reducing impulsivity. Clinicians at Lee Health stress that adults with ADHD report better focus on work and daily tasks, and roughly 80% of pediatric patients experienced improved attention.
However, stimulants come with side effects. A comprehensive review notes that amphetamines can cause insomnia, loss of appetite, emotional lability, mood disturbances, and social withdrawal. Long-term use may delay growth and development in children. Integrative practitioners argue that these medications don't fix ADHD but temporarily suppress its symptoms while leaving root causes: nutritional deficiencies, heavy metal exposure, gut imbalances, or trauma untreated. Parents worry about reliance. One integrative clinician said that stimulant use is often indefinite, and when children stop taking the drug, symptoms return or worsen.
ADHD is multifactorial. In my clinic, we test for iron and zinc deficiency, food allergies, and gut dysbiosis. Medications like Adderall can be helpful short-term, but they should not be the only intervention.
Mainstream medical guidelines also caution that medication is part of a comprehensive plan that includes behavioral therapy and lifestyle changes. A mentalhealth.com overview notes that stimulants can cause appetite loss and increased blood pressure and should be used under supervision. Parents and caregivers must weigh benefits against risks. Supporters argue that, when properly prescribed, Adderall allows children and adults to engage in therapy, develop study skills, and gain self-esteem.
Again, we hear the same pattern. A drug treats symptoms effectively, but critics worry about ignoring underlying causes. That leads us to antidepressants, perhaps the most debated class of medications. Selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs, like Prozac, Zoloft, and Lexapro, are the most commonly prescribed antidepressants. They block the reabsorption of serotonin in the brain, increasing its availability. SSRIs ease symptoms of moderate to severe depression and are considered safer with fewer side effects than older antidepressants. They also help treat anxiety disorders and are generally not habit-forming.
Yet, their efficacy is modest. Functional medicine physician Mark Hyman notes that depression is not one disease but dozens of causes, ranging from nutrient deficiencies and hormone imbalances to past trauma. In clinical trials, antidepressants result in a 50% improvement in half of symptoms in less than half of patients. Side effects: sexual dysfunction, fatigue, insomnia, cognitive issues, nausea, and weight gain affect more than 80% of users. Hyman argues that depression is not a Prozac deficiency, and that focusing solely on neurotransmitters overlooks inflammation, toxins, or thyroid problems.
A psychiatrist interviewed by the Royal Australian College of General Practitioners agrees that SSRIs help reduce anxiety and mood symptoms, but do not fix situational or life event-related issues. She notes that depression is influenced by biological, social, and psychological factors. Medication should be paired with psychotherapy and addressing life circumstances. She also warns against overprescribing and long-term use without reevaluation.
Mainstream guidelines still call SSRIs a first-line treatment for many patients. The Mayo Clinic emphasizes that side effects often diminish within weeks and that if one SSRI doesn't work, another might. They caution patients not to stop abruptly to avoid withdrawal symptoms. Evidence-based medicine is clear. For some, SSRIs are life-saving.
In all three cases, Ozempic, Adderall, and SSRIs, we see a tension. Medications can provide meaningful relief, yet critics say they often treat only the surface. To understand this tension, we need to zoom out to the structural forces that make symptom-based prescribing so pervasive. To grasp why symptom-targeted treatments dominate, consider two pillars of cardiovascular medicine: beta blockers and statins. Beta blockers prescribed to around 10% of US adults slow the heart rate and relax blood vessels, helping treat hypertension, arrhythmias, and heart failure. Statins, taken by tens of millions, lower LDL cholesterol and reduce inflammation, cutting risk of heart attack and stroke by 25% or more.
Integrative medicine authors argues that these drugs epitomize symptom management. A 2016 editorial observed that 9 of the 10 most commonly prescribed drugs, statins included, only relieve symptoms while the underlying disease progresses. The author laments that many physicians enter medicine to cure patients, but become disillusioned by the symptom-oriented treatment. They argue that suppressing blood pressure with beta blockers or lowering cholesterol with statins does not address root causes such as poor diet, sedentary lifestyle, systemic inflammation, or toxin exposure. Patients often remain on these medications indefinitely, and adverse drug reactions are a leading cause of morbidity.
I was put on a beta blocker after my heart attack. It helped my angina, but I gained weight and felt fatigued. When I tried to wean off, my blood pressure spiked. I feel like I'm chained to the pill.
Evidence-based medicine paints a nuanced picture. Beta blockers improve survival in patients with heart failure or recent myocardial infarction. One study found that their use in congestive heart failure patients was associated with a 49% reduction in all-cause mortality. The Cleveland Clinic notes that beta blockers help people live longer, reducing the risk of heart attack, stroke, and hospitalization. They are widely studied and inexpensive.
Yet side effects are real. Beta blockers can cause fatigue, dizziness, sexual dysfunction, bronchospasm, especially in asthmatics, and can mask hypoglycemia. Metabolically, conventional beta blockers worsen insulin resistance and raise triglycerides. Hypertensive patients taking them had a 28% higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes compared with those on other medications. Older agents like atenolol and metoprolol can lead to weight gain. Integrative critics argue that these downstream effects trade one symptom, high blood pressure, for another, metabolic syndrome.
We don't prescribe beta blockers lightly. For patients with heart failure or a history of heart attack, the survival benefit is unequivocal. The metabolic side effects are manageable, and newer vasodilating beta blockers have better profiles. Lifestyle change is essential, but we can't ignore therapies that improve mortality.
Statins inhibit HMG-CoA reductase, a key enzyme in cholesterol synthesis. According to Johns Hopkins Medicine, they are foundational for preventing second heart attacks or strokes and can reduce cardiovascular mortality by 25% or more. Misconceptions that statins cause diabetes, memory loss, or cataracts are largely debunked. Benefits often outweigh risks.
Nevertheless, statins can cause muscle pain, digestive problems, liver abnormalities, and in rare cases, cognitive issues or hemorrhagic stroke. Some studies show a slight increase in blood sugar and risk of type 2 diabetes. Integrative practitioners argue that high cholesterol is often a marker of systemic inflammation, insulin resistance, or thyroid dysfunction rather than a statin deficiency. They contended that focusing on LDL numbers encourages patients to stay on drugs indefinitely instead of addressing diet, stress, and environmental toxins.
My cholesterol dropped on statins, but I felt muscle cramps and foggy. My doctor said the benefits outweighed the side effects. I'm not so sure.
The debate is not merely academic. On one side, integrative medicine calls for root cause analysis, testing for nutrient deficiencies, inflammation, gut dysbiosis, and addressing diet, sleep, stress, and toxin exposure. On the other, cardiologists and evidence-based physicians emphasize that controlling blood pressure and cholesterol saves lives. Not everyone can reverse disease through lifestyle alone. Beta blockers and statins have decades of data proving they reduce morbidity and mortality.
The challenge is to reconcile these perspectives. Perhaps the issue is not that Western medicine is evil, but that it too often stops a symptom control. Imagine if every prescription for a beta blocker came with a referral to a nutritionist, stress management program, and community exercise group. Medications could then serve as bridges rather than crutches. Our investigation reveals a pattern. Drugs like Ozempic, Adderall, and SSRIs, beta blockers, and statins provide genuine relief. Yet their widespread use reflects a health system geared toward managing symptoms rather than curing disease. Functional and integrative medicine practitioners criticize this paradigm, pointing to nutrient deficiencies, toxic exposures, lifestyle factors, and social determinants of health. Evidence-based clinicians counter that. For many patients, symptom-focused drugs save lives and are necessary tools. Both views hold true. We do not advocate throwing away life-saving medications. Rather, we question a system in which people remain on drugs for decades without exploring why they became ill in the first place. A more holistic model would integrate pharmaceutical therapy with deep diagnostics and root cause interventions, nutrition, movement, sleep, stress reduction, and environmental cleanup. Only then can we move from managing disease to restoring health. That concludes today's deep dive into the hidden world of modern pharmaceuticals, from Ozempic's silent side effects to Adderall's wartime origins and the dark reality behind SSRIs. If there's one truth to take away, it's this: the system profits when we're sick, not when we're healed. So question everything, read beyond the label, and look deeper than the prescription pad. Thank you for tuning into the Broken Truth podcast. If this episode opened your eyes, share it with someone who still believes every pill is progress. Follow us on YouTube, Spotify, and Instagram for more investigations that challenge the mainstream story. Until next time, stay aware, stay curious, and never stop searching for the broken truth.